Hello guys, Waseem here at the Plumbing Doctors. So in this video, if you have one radiator which is not working in your property and you don't know what to do, I'm going to explain to you in this video the things that you guys can do. So let's go. So before we get started, there's a few things that you need to do. So go to your thermostat and your programmer and make sure you're calling for heat. So just turn it up all the way to maximum. So on your boiler, make sure the temperature setting for your radiators is on maximum. So the way to do this on this boiler, you've got your radiator symbol there. We just turn this all the way up to maximum for testing purposes. Step one, we've got to make sure you've got water coming into the radiator. So the way a typical radiator works, you have water coming in from the boiler through this valve here. It heats up the radiator, then it goes back down this pipe and back to your radiator, to your boiler. You've got to open both valves anti-clockwise. So this is a TRV, a thermostatic valve. You may have this, you may not have this. If you do, make sure this is fully open anti-clockwise. So make sure this is open anti-clockwise. Then you come over to this side and you'll have a lock shield. Make sure this is also open anti-clockwise. Now I'm turning this and nothing's happening, there's no resistance. So if you look inside here, it's just rounded. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's rounded. So it's actually doing nothing when I'm twisting it sideways. So what you need to do is take that off and you need to get yourself a pair of grips. Now you can get something like from Screwfix, B&Q or something like that. They're not very expensive, it's good to have. Now what you do with these, you get it onto the actual valve and turn it anti-clockwise. Yeah? And you may hear a big dollop of water going in there. Okay, if you do, great, and if it starts working, great. Step 2. So in step 2, we want to make sure that you haven't got air in the radiator. Because what happens is if you have water in, say up to here, and you have the rest there, the boiler can't heat up air, basically. It reheats up water. So what you need to do is get the air out of the system. So the way you do that, you get a bleed key. You can use a bleed key, or you can also use a flat head screwdriver on some radiators. Now on this type of radiator, you can use a bleed key. So come around here, and I'll show you how to use the bleed key. So you get the bleed key, you insert it into here, and then you open it up. So as you can see, I've got water coming out of here, so that's fine. Now, as you can see in this little indent here, this is where you would put your flat bread knife or spoon or anything like that. Whatever you can get in there, put it in there, open it up anti-clockwise, and do it until you have water coming out of the radiator. So if you do find you have loads of air coming out of the radiator, that's great. Keep doing it until you have water coming out. So once you have water coming out, that's fine. So what you're going to have to do after that is you're going to have to go to your boiler and put pressure back into your boiler, because you're going to have lose water pressure in your boiler. I've got other videos about this with certain manufactured boilers. I think Ideal Logic, the Baxies, and potentially the Worcester boilers. Have a look through my videos and I'll tell you how to top up water pressure. Step 3. So what to do if the previous two haven't worked and nothing's happened. So what I suggest, if you do have a TRV, if you have one of these valves here, the way this works, it has a pin inside there. So you have a pin, and what happens is when that pin pushes down, it pushes a rubber seating against this pipe here, and it doesn't allow any water into the radiator. So what I suggest you do is you manually push this down with your hand and open up this nut. So let's get this nut opened. So you get this nut opened. Once it's opened, you can see this pin here. We want to make sure this pin is sticking up. So the easiest way to do it, I use the back of the TRV head and just give it a few thumps. And sometimes that shocking that would push that off the seat and it will allow water into the radiator. You could feel it, just have a little feel about it, and you can see if it's worked. If it has, great. If it hasn't, then what you can do, now you've got to be very careful if you do this, because you could end up with a very bad water leak. So only do it if you're quite confident. So what you need to do is you get a pair of grips. If you get yourself a pair of grips, you put it onto the actual pin here, and you just go up and down, like that. Now don't pull it up, because if you pull it up, all that water coming out of this pipe will squirt out, and this is really hot water, you're going to burn yourself. So you've got to be very careful when you're doing this. So you just literally go up, down, up, down, up, down, and sometimes you can dislodge it and allow the water in to the radiator. So step 4, so if that hasn't worked, then what I suggest you do is you run around all your other radiators, and if you have a TRV like this, I suggest you turn them all down. So go around and turn all your TRVs off, turn them off all to 0. If you haven't got a TRV, then any side of your lock shields that you have, get grips and turn them all the way down. So by turning all the radiators off, what you're doing is you're forcing the water to this radiator. So it's important that this radiator is open. So it's all important that this TRV is open, this lock shield is open, and the rest are basically closed. So if you don't have TRVs on all the radiators and you've got an older system and you have something like this, lock shield, then what you need to do is you need to get yourself a pen and a pad, put a bit of piece of paper down on the floor, and you need to remember how many turns you have to have taken on each radiator to turn that radiator off. So I'll give you an example. So on this radiator I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6. There were 6 turns. On my piece of paper I'd write 6, and then I'll move on to the next rad and repeat the process to all the other radiators until they're all closed. And then you're forcing the water to this radiator. If it works, then it's great. It's great because now you know you may have potentially cleared blockages and it may work. So you go back around and open them all back up, and hopefully it's fine. If it doesn't work, then you could have a blockage in your system and you're going to need to call an engineer out. So if you've turned all the radiators off and now this radiator is working, that's great, that's good news. But it means now you've got a balancing issue with your radiators. So what that basically means is when all the radiators are on, the boiler is pushing water to the other radiators instead of this radiator. So that normally happens to radiators who are furthest away from the boiler. So what you would need to do is balance the system. So you need to go back around, turn all the radiators back on and balance the system. So if you guys do need help with balancing your radiators, leave me a comment in the comment section below, and hopefully I'll make a video in the near future, because it is a lengthy process balancing your radiators. You know, it can take 10 minutes, it can take up to 2 or 3 hours balancing your radiators. So leave me a comment in the comment section below and I'll get that sorted for you. We've come to the end of the video. I hope you guys have learned something new. I hope your radiators are now working, most importantly. Now if they are, let me know in the comment section below which step actually worked for you guys. If they ain't, also let me know in the comment section below and I'll try my best to get back to you. I actually get back to everybody, positive or negative. You negative guys, I turn an L into a W. I try my best to help you guys. So negativity I don't mind. You know, feedback to me is feedback. Now stay safe guys, stay warm, job done.